So this happened maybe about 7 or 8 years ago when I was still 14, but it creeped me out so much that it always stuck with me. When I was younger, I used to be the typical scene kid. I know, I'm not proud of it, but that was the style then. I had long blue hair with the bangs to match, and I always hung around the skate park with my friends, who were mostly boys at that time. One day, during a summer heat wave here in Scotland, I noticed a boy standing at the side of the park by himself, just watching. He was about 18 or 19. I figured he was just watching people skating, but he showed up again and again. He then started talking to some of my friends, asking about me. I found this pretty weird at that time, as he was so much older, but I just brushed it off and thought nothing of it. Then one day, when I was walking back to the town center, it was a shopping center close to the park, I noticed that I was being followed. So I texted one of my friends, who I knew was still hanging about, and asked him to meet me. This boy followed me all the way back, which was a 20-minute walk, and stood round a corner and watched me talk to my friend, who then said, "Hey, do you know you're being watched?" And I replied with, "Yes, he's followed me all the way from the skate park, and he's been watching me for days now." This wasn't the only time he followed me either. He showed up multiple times once. I phoned my dad to come and pick me up from the bus station at night, and he hid around a corner again and watched me get in the car. And when I say hid, I mean like the stereotypical hiding and peering from a dark corner, which is really kind of creepy. Another time, I was walking after the shops had closed through the center, and I seen him walking from the opposite end. I thought he had passed me, but when I looked, he was pretending to look in a closed shop window, then swirled around and started walking behind me until I went into one of the only shops open, a big Sainsbury, and then I lost him. The last time I've ever seen him was when I was running for a bus. As I got on, the doors closed, but I then see this boy running and looking in the bus windows, trying to get him to stop and let him on. Whew, thank God the bus driver kept driving. This whole thing scared me so much that I stopped hanging about there and even lost contact with the friends in this story. So, yeah, creepy skatepark stalker, let's not meet. For context, I'm a 20-year-old female, and for this story, let's refer to creepy stalker dude as S. It's important to know that in my country, there is a school specifically for boys where you will be sent to if you have severe behavioral or mental problems. Now, so I went to a bar in my hometown and decided to get some drinks. Then comes this boy, S, who introduces himself to me sweetly. I say hi back and he starts a conversation. And now, he looked about 180 centimeters, chubby round cheeks, very soft features, brown shortish hair, and hipster glasses. Someone who probably pervs over anime girls. He shows me a silver chain around his neck and says that he's into energies. He asked if he could read mine. It intrigued me a little, and I was like, well, okay, since I was curious of what he would say. He does this weird hand motion with his eyes closed and says that I have a very good energy. Then he starts telling me about me. Every single thing he says is wrong. I asked him what my aura color is, and he didn't know what aura was. S said, "Oh, you were born in summer." I replied, "No, I was not." S then said, "Oh, really? Well, when were you born then?" I said, "Spring, May." S then said, "Oh, well, that's almost summer, May 18th?" And I replied, "No, actually, it's 8th. And S said, "Well, see, I was technically right." I was weirded out by him and tried to escape to my friends nearby. He followed me. A male friend of mine asked him twice loudly to please leave me alone. He ignores him and starts talking about his silver chain, which he supposedly got from a church at some other country and which is holy. He then proceeds to tell me that he is 18 and graduated from the previously mentioned school. Now, I am even more creeped out, so I ignore him the rest of the night, and he just follows me around everywhere quietly. My guy friends would literally escort me everywhere they or I went, not leaving me alone for a single second, because this dude was constantly right behind me and would not leave. I managed to shake him off eventually. I was too scared to go home before, in case he followed me there or into the taxi. I went home and locked all of my doors just in case. Also, I alerted the bar security, and they knew right away who I was speaking of and thanked me for letting them know. So, creepy energy reading guy from the bar, let's not meet. This happened years ago when I had just gotten my first actual job. I didn't think much of it, and I figured it was harmless. I could find people around the country to chat with, learn about some other cultures, all that kind of stuff. And I wouldn't give out personal information about myself. No phone number, address, any of that. I wasn't stupid. I made a simple profile, stated what kind of friends I was interested in making, just the basic stuff. After about a month, I received a message from a man. I don't remember it word for word, but it basically said, "Hi, I found your profile and I'm super interested in being friends." He then stated he lives in the same state as me. Though I know maybe it was rude to be snobby about someone in my state contacting me, I did politely say on my profile that I was trying to make some penpals outside of the US. I responded politely though, and I replied to a few of his messages for a while. I found out he lived in the same city as me. "Oh, I see you like anime. I love anime. And I also see you've been to Japan. I've been to Japan too. Do you go to anime conventions? Maybe we could go together to the next convention that comes to town." I felt a little uncomfortable. I put right on my page that I have no intention to meet up with anyone, just have an online pen pal. I politely told him that, and he didn't like it. "Oh, I just thought we could be friends since we have similar interests." I again politely told him that I'm not interested in meeting anyone in person from the website. He pretended to be fine with it and went right back to rambling about his interest. I logged out of the website for a few days and just focused on my personal life, going to work and doing schoolwork and taking care of my disabled father. One day, I woke up to notifications on multiple of my instant messenger apps, all stating basically the same thing. "Hey, it's me, from the Penpal website." He messaged me on like 4 of my chat apps, which I did not give him. How did he find it? I was really annoyed. As politely as I could, I messaged him on the Penpal website. "Hey, I don't know how you found my IDs for my chat apps, but that was kinda over the line. That wasn't really appropriate. Not one app, but you messaged me like on 4. He answered, "I'm sorry, but I really wanted to talk to you and you haven't been on the website for a few days." I told him back, "That doesn't make it okay. I also have a personal life, a job and family. I can't spend all my time on here." But then he reasoned, "That's why I messaged you on those apps." I then asked him, "I don't have them listed on my profile. How did you even find them?" He avoided the subject. "I'm sorry that I did that. I'm just trying to be your friend. I just want to be friends with you." And I told him, "This isn't the way to do it. I'm very uncomfortable that you somehow found that information that I didn't give to you. I don't think we should talk anymore, and I don't want to be friends with you. I'm sorry. Please don't contact me again." I immediately blocked him on all of those apps and on the Penpal website. For a few months, everything was fine. But suddenly, I got a message on one of the apps and the user wasn't in my friends list. The message was basically as follows: "You stupid, fat, ugly bitch. No one will ever love you. You'll never find a man to love you and you're so fucking fat and ugly. Why don't you just kill yourself, bitch? Do the world a favor." I rolled my eyes and blocked the account. Throughout the course of a year, every few months, across my multiple social media platforms, I was being harassed. I had completely forgotten about the man until I received a message on the Penpal website. The account had name or photos. It was a random username. The message I received was the same nonsense as before, calling me fat and ugly, saying I'm a bitch and telling me that I should die. And once I got the message on that website, I knew it had to be him, and I had no other issues with anyone. I replied saying that guy's name, telling him that I know it was him and that his behavior is really sad and pathetic. He answered, "I just wanted to be your friend, you fucking bitch. Watch your back." Then the account blocked me. For a few months, nothing really happened. I got 1 or 2 messages from fake accounts again, but I had grown used to it and immediately blocked them. Then one day, I received a Facebook message from a police officer. He was contacting me about a profile that I apparently made on a website called Ashley Madison. It was used for people to have affairs, hookups, and many more. I had never heard of it before then, and absolutely did not have an account there. I had a long talk with him, where he told me his department investigates human trafficking and thought that I was an underage girl possibly in danger. It had my personal Facebook account listed on the profile, as well as other ways to contact me. I was in shock. He advised me to contact the website and asked them to take down the profile, but said to me, "You seem like a sweet girl. I don't know who you pissed off, but don't read the profile." Well, my curiosity got the better of me, but I should have taken his advice. Using some of my normal selfies, an account was made and the profile stated a lot of horrible things. Very derogatory. It made me sick to my stomach to read some of the things it said, and apparently it wanted to have done to me. The website took quick action to take the profile down. The next time I got one of those hate messages online, I snapped. I didn't hold back, cursing him out for being so immature and disgusting because someone simply didn't want to be his friend. The account blocked me without answering, and I didn't get a message from any accounts for a while. One day, when I was the closer at work, I was waiting outside for a family member to pick me up. I didn't have my own vehicle, and my family would give me rides to and from work. As I was listening to music, waving goodbye to my manager as they drove off, I got a notification on one of my apps. "You ugly bitch." I sighed, rolled my eyes as I opened the message. As I was typing, another message came in that made me stop typing and freeze up. "You're all alone now, and I could kill you right now if I wanted to. No one would ever find you." I backed up against the building. I didn't have keys. Only the manager did, who just left, and I looked around through the parking lot. Not a car in sight. The street lights shined dimly around me, and my heart started to race as more messages came in. "You're so fucking ugly, you know that? No one would ever fall in love with you. Your family probably wouldn't even miss you. You disgusting bitch. I should just kill you right now." I started to cry, the phone shaking in my hands. Just as another text came in, a car pulled up in front of me. It was a family member coming to pick me up, and I took a deep breath and got quickly into the car. "Sorry I'm late. I got stuck at 2 red lights. Your manager already left? They just left you alone out here?" "Just drive!" I accidentally scream at them, tears streaming down my face. "What's wrong? Did something happen at work?" I was crying, shaking. They took my phone and looked at it, seeing the messages. "What the fuck? Who the hell is texting you?" "I don't know who it is. Please just drive. I want to get out of here." We went back to their place, and they wanted to call the police, but I told them not to. I had no idea who they were, or where to find them to make a police report against them. Instead, they called another family member who works in the IT field. After they heard the whole story, everything I've endured for almost 2 years, they told me I should have made new accounts from the beginning of this harassment. I listened to them, and right then and there, I made new accounts on all my social media. I worked at the job for another month, but my family member had told my manager what happened, so I was never put on closing shifts again. I was only given morning shifts where I clicked out of work while the sun was still out. But I still didn't feel safe. They knew where I worked, and my manager understood when I quit. All the harassment stopped, and to this day, I still haven't received any more of those messages. Now, I'm married, and I still live in this city, and I don't live in that neighborhood anymore. I feel comfortable, and I don't feel afraid that this person will find me and stalk me again. But even now, anytime I get a random message from someone who isn't in my friends list, my heart races for a second. So this was a couple of years ago, but it always stuck with me as creepy, though I've never thought too much or too deeply into it, or why it creeped me out so much. So one day, I, a 26-year-old female, was walking home from university. It was dark outside, and it was mid to late evening. I'm sorry, I don't remember exactly, but I usually stayed until 8 or 9 because my home situation was not study-friendly. Anyway, I just started walking. I was maybe 5 to 10 minutes into my usual route when I got the feeling of being watched. I was walking down a residential street, so I felt pretty safe in the knowledge that if anything was too creepy, I could probably ring someone's doorbell. So I looked behind me and noticed a man in a dark waterproof coat. It was Spiding, with a hood up and some kind of dark trousers and trainers, walking behind me around 50 to 100 meters behind. I felt stalked. I felt like a prey animal being stalked by a predator. I didn't think too much of it, but I texted a friend to make myself feel safe. The road was fairly long, with a curve at the end, and I was walking towards which obstructed the view of the guy. As I walked, I kept an eye out for where he was and how fast he was traveling, but of course, my view was obstructed at this point. I called my friend, and although he didn't pick up, I just had a fake conversation with his mailbox while I kept an eye out for Mr. Creepy. As the man comes back into view after this bend, I noticed that he was closer to me. He had made up some ground, not too much, but enough. I realized that he was carrying some kind of long metal object, and he had been carrying it the whole time, but I got a slightly better look at it. It looked like a TV aerial that he was holding, and it was extended for some reason, with one end pointed at the floor. It must have been a foot or more in length and very thin, but it wasn't flexing, so it was rigid. I couldn't figure out why anyone would carry a TV aerial extended. Even if, say he had just bought it, wouldn't it be in a box? Or a bag? If he had stolen it, would he not conceal it? I thought maybe he had borrowed it. But again, why carry it extended in the rain? Something felt very wrong about this. Upon reflection, it could have been a knife. But if it was huge. Like if that was a knife, it would go straight through someone's body, no doubt. Or at least make a very decent attempt at it. But then, why carry a huge knife around so obviously in a residential area? Weird. So I'm having this fake convo with my friend and pick up the pace a bit. I ducked down a road to the right, which basically was like turning back on myself, like taking a U-turn. I figured that if he took the same right, that he was most certainly following me, because why take that route? He did. He took the turn, still with a long metal thing in his hand, and I ducked quickly to the left, another left, back onto the same road, and then I took an extra turn before I rejoined the main road. Thankfully, he had been left behind by my weird route and fast pace. I just remember this. Super creepy, but not sure if it really was. Or was I being paranoid? Does anyone have any thoughts on this? Was it actually creepy? Why carry the thing just out like that? What do you think it was? I can't figure it out to this day. I'm just glad that I didn't get close enough to find out. For context, my native language is not English, so please bear with me. By the way, I also changed the guy's name for privacy reasons. Okay, so this story happened like 2 years ago. For a little background, I have autism, and when I turned 18, my mom told me that she couldn't take care of me anymore, so she sent me to a sort of group home for people with autism. It was a tiny one-story building with about 8 apartments for each person. My first day there, it was pretty clear that I was one of the high-functioning people there, and it seemed that I was the youngest too. My mom stayed with me the first night to help me get settled, and 2 guys who lived there kept walking up to my door, just looking. Me, being used to being around socially awkward people, like myself, didn't really think much of it. Although I really hated the attention, I didn't want to talk to them, and after about 2 hours, they gave up. My mom said that they were sweet and just curious as to who was moving in, but I wasn't in the mood to socialize. Fast forward to me living there a couple of weeks, I'm sitting in my very tiny living room watching TV when I see a shadow outside of my window. My window was placed beside the main entrance so that I could always hear and see people walking by. My blinds were on though, but I could still see the shadow since the main entrance had lights on all night. So I started looking away from the TV and just looking at the shadow by the window. The person stood there for about 5 minutes, then walked away. Or so I thought. Then I saw the shadow sorta duck behind a wall, but still try to look into my window. And that was when I got kind of freaked out. The next day, I tell the people working in the group home, and they're like, "Oh, it's probably just Eric, he does that sometimes." And I'm sorta like, well, I would appreciate it if he didn't, 'cause it freaks me out. They just said something along the lines that they would talk to him about it, and I agreed. Fast forward again to having been here for months, It's a daily occurrence that this Eric guy walks past my front door and front windows 40 times a day, walking past 4 times in 4 minutes. My door is made of glass, so again, he can see through. Sometimes, I walk out of my living room and I see Eric just standing at my door staring at me. It's the most unsettling thing. At this point, I've told the staff multiple times, but they say they can't really do anything and that he's harmless. Right. At one point though, Eric is gone and I'm relieved to finally being comfortable with having my blinds up and walking around my own apartment. So, probably a year into living there, maybe less, I get really depressed. It wasn't the best place to live and I've never felt so lonely in my life. I end up attempting suicide and they put me in a mental hospital for a couple of days so that I can be watched. Well, guess who's there too? Fucking Eric. He notices me right away and every time a nurse tries to walk into my room, he stands by the door staring at me. They have to keep telling him to go away. One time, I had to wash my clothes with one of the nurses and he followed us yelling so everyone could hear it. Hey, that girl lives where I live. Hi, Michelle. Her name is Michelle. And being the type of person that hates attention, I just start walking faster until the nurses can get a hold of him. So at this point, I'm actually in an okay mental state. Still not the best place to live, with neglected staff and shitty people around me just all around. And Eric is back too at one point, and honestly, I haven't been outside because I'm afraid I'll run into him. His apartment isn't even on my side, so it makes no sense why he's there all the time. I've noticed it's been quiet out there for a while, so I decided that it's safe to go down to the basement with my laundry. I turned the corner and boom, almost bumped into him. I kind of freaked out, but remember, he's still just a person, and I politely give him a smile and say, "Oh, hi." He doesn't say anything, and he just stares. I then walk past him and on my way to the basement, I look back and this fucker is following me now. He actually turned around to follow me. I start walking faster and I thank God that I have the key for the basement ready. I open the door and shut it quickly so that I know it's locked. I walk into the laundry room with my laundry and then I hear the door open. I froze. Was he going to kill me? I mean, I didn't even know the guy or what he was capable of. 3 minutes go by and I finally have the courage to peek out of the room. The door is open, but he's nowhere to be seen. It seems that he's gone. It scared the lifeless crap out of me, so I hurried up and put my clothes in the washing machine and hurried back to my apartment. Again, I speak to the staff and this one guy is actually really helpful. He's the first to take me seriously and says that they need to fix it. I know that they talked to him about it and also about standing by my window, but do you think he'd listen? To describe Eric, I would say he's a very tall guy. I couldn't tell if he was skinny or chubby because he was always wearing a big green jacket. He had glasses, was hunched over, sorta, and had long dark greasy hair. So basically, nightmare fuel to any girl. Okay, I know I sound like an asshole, but I'm a very tiny girl, and I knew if he tried anything, I wouldn't stand a chance. So now, it's the norm again to see him at my window, although when the staff tells him to stop, he just laughs very childlike. He thought it was funny? It annoyed the shit out of me, and I went from being scared to being super angry. I knew he had issues, but damn, I had issues too, and he wasn't helping me with my anxiety. He actually made it worse. I told the staff, if he ever tried anything, I would beat the living shit out of him. Aggressive, I know. I was short, yes, but I was angry too. They told me that wasn't allowed, and I reminded them that him looking into my windows and following me around wasn't allowed either. They agreed, but told me again that there was nothing that they could do. I seriously considered calling the police at this point. The last thing he did that really made me angry was he walked past my door and windows many times, as always, but then I realized he was gone. I sighed in relief, but I still had the feeling of being watched. My eye caught movement outside, and this fucking dude was hiding behind a tree outside my apartment watching me. When he saw me, he grinned and moved closer. I walked into the living room not wanting to deal with this shit and called my boyfriend. My boyfriend stayed at my apartment pretty much every day from now on, and he stopped for a while. I think he even asked the staff if that was my boyfriend, and they told him it was. He still walked past our door sometimes, but not as often and not as creepily. Thankfully, we moved out about a year later, and I haven't seen him since. But it made me very cautious and very dependent of my boyfriend. I know he probably didn't have any bad intentions, but it really fucked my mental state up, and it really scared me.
Hello everyone, it's your creepy sister here. Thank you so much for watching the video. I really appreciate each and every one of you. But I would also want to thank my awesome patrons, Fire05, Gabriel, Maskino, and Ralph. If you want to support the channel further, you can be a patron too. But remember, it's appreciated, but never a requirement. I would also like to announce that we have merch now. The link is in the description of the video, along with all my other social media links, like my Discord server, Twitter, Instagram, and others. You can connect with me and send your stories there. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't yet, and comments are highly appreciated. And remember, your fear feeds me.